boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Blue coming at you with a new video today. We're gonna do some Thor exposing, but this video is gonna be a whole lot different than it was with Captain America, because Thor's skills are really good. We're actually going to be exposing his tier 3 skill today. So we're gonna look at our Thor and what we're working with. This is what we're working with. Of course, Thor does have the leadership skill, so we will be using White Fox as a leader for this situation. We're a little low on crit. That's because Thor doesn't have any native crit, I do believe. We got a decent amount of crit hit damage. We got a lot of lightning damage because of all the lightning damage I have on his obelisk and his tier 2 passive as well. So we're gonna be over 100% on that. And there, let's look at the skills. There you go. See, that's the Uru, all 5-star. Boom. The skills are all maxed out. Of course, we're about halfway with the ISL set, and then the custom gear, which is a 38% 180 proc, and then of course mythic uniform with four options. So we are rocking about 36,000 deep damage. But we're going to look at the skill, the tier 3 skill, and we're going to talk about why this skill is not as good as it presents itself. And the reason for it is it's a major issue. So the skill is really good. Unfortunately, it's really good and then really bad at the same time. It does have lightning resist, lightning down basically, which is like defense down, so it's gonna lower stats. But other than this skill, Thor has nothing else that can do lightning down, so that right off the back is kind of silly. If he had a skill that actually helped buff that, because it has a maximum 40%, but you're never going to be able to get that from this skill. This is the real issue with this skill. It's the damage. Right, because it says deals 70% shock damage every 1 second for 2 seconds. So you're in World Boss, you're not going to get that. The boss is immune to any kind of dot damage, so that's a lot of his damage right there that you're not going to get. Of course, you're going to get the dodge ignore and the penetration and yada yada yada. But all in all, the flavor text on this is kind of vague, but this skill does a lot of dot damage, basically, overtime damage, and you're not going to get a lot of that overtime damage in World Boss because they're going to be immune to it. It's the same thing with his 5 skill. He's got the same dot damage on his 5 skill, but his 5 skill does way more damage. But you're going to lose 15% shock damage for 5 seconds, which is another thing. The rest of the skills, this 4 skills are pretty good. Of course, this 3 skill is going to give you that guard. You're going to need those guards when you don't have that immunity shield from the 5. And then the other 2 skills are just kind of filler, lightning damage filler. So let's go into it. Actually, let's go right into it. We won't be using any strikers, and we will be going against Proxima because we don't want to. We just want to scale the damage depending. We just want to scale the damage with basically what I'm going to do is excuse me. We're going to do a rotation without the tier 3 skill, and then we're going to do rotation with the tier 3 skill and see how much better he does with the tier 3 skill. Now, there's something wonky about Thor. Of course, when you start using his tier 3 skill, since there's so much dot damage when you actually use the tier 3 skill, it's really hard to keep the damage proc on that 5 skill. That's where you want to hit your damage proc. 5 skill, always 5 skill. Unfortunately, when you get the tier 3 skill out there doing all the extra dot damage hits, it's really hard to hit that 5 skill on proc. And then another thing is Thor has some weird things that sometimes you could go through whole rotations and the proc won't even set off, so you lose a lot of damage. But we're gonna do a couple rotations, so we're gonna do two runs with without the tier 3 skill, and then we'll do 2 runs with the tier 3 skill and see if we can get about the same average, and really show why Thor's tier 3 skill is kind of useless. Because when you think of tier 3 characters, you think of world boss. This is the only content in the game where tier 3s are useful, and unfortunately you don't get all the value of his tier 3 skill because a lot of it is dot damage. And you'll see it on the screen. It'll say immune to shock. It'll say it's like the same thing with Corvus, immune to dodge, yada yada yada. But she's all the bosses will be immune to shock. Period. It's the same thing with like bleeds. They're all immune to bleed damage. Anything that is a dot damage basically. So we're gonna go in and with no tier 3 skill this time and see how far we can get her down, and see how it goes. Then we gotta watch her. We gotta play smart, because if she backdashes, she can cancel. See, we got a 5 skill right off the bat without it, without a proc. We got the proc at the end of the 4 skill, so that's already a bad start. And then I got hit by, I got stunned. We got the proc there though. We managed to bring the proc back. And we got the proc again. See, the proc on 5 skills really good. It does an outrageous amount of damage. It would do more damage though. We lost the proc there. It would do more damage. See, you see all the shock immunity? That's the problem. Even on his 5 skill, and like all his skills have some type of shock on it. They leave a lot of dot damage, but you're not going to get any of that damage on World Boss. I lost the proc here. We're only going to do this for 1 minute. We don't want to go too far. We're going to get one more 5 skill in here, and then it's going to be over. Boom. So we got under about 13. The start of the fight started off bad immediately. We didn't even get a proc until the second rotation. We got the proc on the 4 skill, and it was almost at the end of the 4 skill, so the proc was basically useless. So we're gonna see if we can get around the same or a little better without using tier 3 skill, and hopefully we get some proper procs here. But like I was saying at the beginning of the fight, you gotta watch Proxima, and she can do it any time in the fight because she likes her skills make her jump back. If she jump backs, sometimes you will start a skill and she will completely cancel your skill, and that's always something that's bad. So you want to be on top of her. Yeah, see, she's gonna backdash. Yeah, if I would have this skill, she would have canceled it. We actually got the proc that time, and that was a good start right off the bat with the proc. And we got the proc again. And the strongest part of that skill is when he comes down from the sky. And we lost the proc though. When he comes down and lands on the boss, that's gonna be the strongest part of that skill, that proc. We lost the proc again. It's no big deal. We're on course a lot better than the last run for doing much more damage. Yeah, she's trying to run away from me. But yeah, you see all the shock immunity, and I'm losing. He loses so much damage because all his skills have some type of shock in it, and when you lose a lot of damage from Thor. But all in all, he does such good damage anyways. Yeah, we got a little bit better. We almost got into 12 bars. Almost got into 12 bars that time. So now we're gonna do it. We're gonna do the same thing, but this time we're gonna come with the tier 3 skill and see if we can do much better than 13, almost 12 bars with the 3 skill, the tier 3 skill in the rotation. Alright, so we're gonna start off. We got an early proc, which is good because that's the best way to start. I said Thor is really easy to get his tier 3 skill. You go through two rotations, full rotations, all his skills, and you will get the proc right at the end of the last skill. We lost the proc right there. We lost it to the tier 3 skill, which is bad because we wasted the tier 3 skill on a proc, and now our proc is going to be all over the place now, and getting it back is going to be, it takes a reset of the rotation, and we don't have time to reset the rotation. So we're trying to do as much damage as possible in 1 minute, and we're going to be able to do three tier 3 procs, tier 3 skills before the 1 minute, and we might actually be able to sneak in a 5 skill. Yeah, we were able to sneak in a 5 skill, and that 5 skill is the only reason why we just did more than we would have without the tier 3 skill. And if you paid any attention, there was all that damage from the 5 skill, all that shock damage that's happening on the ground. She's taking none of that damage. She's just taking random lightning bolt damage. There's lightning bolts that come out that hit and do damage, but the ground that's electrified is the shock damage, and she's taking none of that damage, which is a loss of a lot of damage that Thor can be putting out. So I think if the boss could take these dot damage, Thor would be he would be something to he wouldn't be something to mess with on a world boss. And this is his weakness in world boss, because his tier 3 skill, we lost a tier 3 skill proc. His weakness is the fact that a lot of his damage is coming from the shock, and you can't officially use it against the bosses. Oh, we got stunned there. That was bad, actually. She actually messed me up badly. She messed my rotation up really bad. We're definitely not going to do nearly as much damage as we did the last time, because she stunned me. We're still on pace. Yeah, see, she stunned me, but it's not much more damage. He's honestly not doing nearly as much damage as with it or without the tier 3 skill. He's doing nowhere near as much damage like you would expect with the tier 3 skill. He would do like maybe 2 bars. The first run we did a half a bar more damage than without the tier 3 skill. We did 2 runs with, and we got about 13.5. We did that one good run, and we got about 12, almost 12.5. And yeah, that really shows that his tier 3 skill, as good as it sounds, because on world boss, which is where you expect to use tier 3 characters, it's not as good, because his tier 3 skill does basically no damage to the bosses, because the shock damage is being immune. It's getting sucked up by the immunity. So we're gonna go into Extreme Alliance battles, which is Extreme Alliance battle day today, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna do a run with the tier 3 skill, and then we're going to do a run without the tier 3 skill. We're going to use Hyperion for this one. Sometimes I use Ironheart too, because he's got a really good leadership, and it really depends. But we're gonna go with the maximum damage. We're just gonna go with max damage on this fight, and Hyperion is max damage plus he's a team up that gets 5% too. So we're just gonna go max damage. In the first run, we're gonna do no tier 3 skill, and then the second run we'll do a tier 3 skills and see how many points we manage to how many more points we would manage to accumulate. And of course, this is all going to be based on damage procs and all that stuff. And like I said, Thor has this, it's really hard to keep his rotation going because his skills just put out so much dot damage on the field, so much residual damage that you can easily just lose his proc for no reason. But since we're doing this as the Frost Beast, we're gonna try to reset the proc if we can, and try to reset the proc into a rotation. Now, of course, you don't want to get hit by this beast because he blinds you. That's another thing. We're gonna have to try to not get blinded, because if you're blinded, you go on a missing spree for, I think, 10 seconds, and yeah, that's not good because that's basically a loss of damage and a loss of points. So you're definitely going to want to do 5 into 4 into 2, 3 for the guards so you don't get blind, and then just keep going like that basically. Sometimes you get to go 3 in just in case if you don't feel like you have enough cooldown, and just to keep yourself from getting hit, because the guards will protect you from the blind. And then 4, like I said, 4, 3, there, boom. Of course, this rotation is slightly different when you're using the tier 3 skill, but like I said, we're gonna see what we can do without it. So far, we're doing pretty decent. I really never paid attention to my point score with Thor. I normally score about anywhere from 1.2 mil to like 1.4 mil. So, like I said, it all depends on damage proc. I lost the proc too, so we're going to try to get it back. And how you get it back is like that, using that 2-1 skill to do some damage to get just to get it rolling, because it's harder to just stand around and wait for the proc to kind of reset than it is to actually do hits. And we lost it again there, because you see there's so much lightning on the ground, there's so much lightning in the area, and like there's so much stuff going on, like, and that's why it's really easy to lose this proc. We didn't get it there neither, but we're pretty close to it, so we're going to see if we get into a regular rotation here. No, we lost it. We officially lost it again. Now, see, this is the difference, though. If you pay attention, the Frost Beast is not like the World Boss. The Frost Beast takes shock damage. So this is going to be a huge difference. This is what Thor's tier 3 skill would look like if World Boss would take shock damage, which hopefully they changed that. We lost the rotation, but we don't really have time to try to reset it. If they took the dot damage, you're going to see the huge difference in Thor's tier 3 skill. Like, Thor's tier 3 skill is really good. I don't think he gets enough credit for how good his tier 3 skill is, and it's because, like I said, the immunity to shock damage, the bleed damage. Now we're gonna do the same thing. Now we're gonna throw that tier 3 skill in, and like I said, just pay attention. It's gonna be a huge difference in points, because the Frost Beast is going to take all this shock damage, and this is what his tier 3 would feel like against the World Boss, if the World Boss would eat shock damage. Right away, there's a proc. I don't think we even got a proc through a whole almost two rotations, which is pretty nuts. And this is the problem with Thor sometimes. It's just sometimes the proc just doesn't want to go off. And right off the start, I can tell we were immediately doing more damage because like I said, we're actually using the tier 3 skill, and the beast is not immune to the shock damage, so the beast is going to take all of this damage that this tier 3 skill can put out, which it's pretty good when it comes to this situation. But this is a once a week, actually this is a once every 2 week thing now, so the value of his tier 3 skill is based on what the tier 3 skill can do, and on a day-to-day basis the tier 3 skill can't basically do nothing, as you've seen against world boss, which is where you're going to be able to use Thor on a daily basis. But you probably won't use Thor on a daily basis because you won't be able to beat too many bosses with it. Now don't get me wrong, Thor can definitely do a majority of the bosses at a decently high level. Ebony Maw, he crushes Ebony Maw at a decent level. I can do the high 40s with Ebony Maw. Of course, Ebony Maw fight is very annoying because he has all those iframe, he has his own iframes, which he will basically cancel a lot of your skills because he's iframing, which makes the fight very annoying. But if you pay attention to a fight long enough, you start to pick up on the fight's habits, like Ebony Maw's habits and how he's going to do certain things. And if you pay attention to that and you know what he's going to do, then you can save your good skills for when we got blinded there somehow. He pierced my shield. You can save your skills to basically make it so you do the maximum damage to him. But yeah, that's a pretty annoying fight. But at the same time, it is his best fight because he is an elemental, and of course Ebony Maw is weak against elemental damage, so he can do Corvus. Definitely, he can do Corvus at a pretty high level too. Like, as long as you got dodge ignore, you can do Corvus at a very high level. And there you go. I did almost 400,000 more points, and that's the power of his tier 3 skill. When his tier 3 skill actually does the shock damage that it does. It needs to be able to do the shock damage, and this is why Thor is not as good as we would hope to, because this is the only time you're actually going to be able to use that tier 3 to any use. PvP, you will never, I don't think, if you ever get to use a tier 3 skill on PvP, that'd be nuts. The fight doesn't normally last long enough for you to do a tier 3 skill. You either get demolished in PvP really fast, or you demolish the other team. Survival is not something that happens in PvP, so being able to do a tier 3 skill with Thor would be pretty nuts if you manage to do it. And then of course Shadowlands really doesn't matter, because whatever stage you do, you're most likely going to destroy the stage before you ever even am capable to doing a tier 3 skill. The only real content that tier 3s are used in are world boss, and his tier 3 skill is basically unusable against the world boss, because all his damage is basically absorbed, immune, whatever you want to call it. But like I was saying about which bosses he can't do, don't get it wrong, he can definitely crush Ebony Maw. He can crush Corvus at a decently high too as well. I've never tried him against Thanos, but I'm sure he can probably do a decent stage Thanos, maybe 15. Maybe I'll make a video that's separate from this one to see what he can do against Thanos. And you've seen what he can do against Proxima at stage 35. In 1 minute, he does pretty well. He should be able, and this is a fight he shouldn't be able to do, because like I said, we all know energy damage characters are much weaker against Proxima, but he was doing very well. Honestly, he was easily on pace to beat her, give or take, if I could keep the proc going. Now, I've tried him against Cole Obsidian. Not gonna happen. Cole Obsidian's defenses are way too high. I tried a stage 30, and in a minute I did maybe a bar and a half without tier 3 skill, and with tier 3 skill about a bar and a half. I was not on pace to doing anything against him. So just cut Cole Obsidian out of that fight. But you do have 4 fights that are possible for sure. Two fights that are guaranteed, which is Ebony and Corvus, possible for Proxima at a decent stage, and possibly Thanos, maybe 15-20. Not 100% on that, because like I said, I have no actual gameplay on that fight. So, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope to see you guys come back to the channel for the next video. I appreciate it, guys. Peace.